Abortion continues to be a contentious issue around the world and here in Canada. Joining us today to discuss some of these issues is Duane Konynenbelt. He is a board member of Lethbridge Prolife, as well as Elsie's House. Duane, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here today.
Excellent. So let's touch base on some of the abortion issues. Why is it that the majority of Canadian society seems supportive of abortion?
Well, I think sometimes it's based on the way that we frame the questions that we ask the people when we do these surveys. We certainly find that there are many pro-life issues where most Canadians agree. If you take issues like late-term abortion or sex-selective abortion, you'll find that most Canadians agree that those things are wrong. I also believe that when we get the pro-life message out and we try to tell people that we believe that people have value from conception until natural death, that basic idea that all people have value because they're created in the image of God is a great way to run a society. It gives everybody equal rights in all situations, and it's a great way to move forward. And so I think sometimes when it's framed that way, then it's very quickly people tend to agree with pro-life positions.
Right, so you're talking about the way things are framed. So when people are asked, do you support women's rights or do you support the right to choose, most people will say yes. But what exactly is the choice that we're talking about here?
Well, that's exactly right. Obviously, we support women and we support people to have choice, but there are some choices that we believe we can't make when they affect other people. And so, in the pro life cause, we think it's very important for people to understand that the unborn is human. So, when we're talking about choice in this case, that there's more than one person. And so, when someone says, my body, my choice, I think they're missing that there's another body involved here, there's another person. And when we recognize that there's another person, then suddenly the whole argument changes. So, of course, we support choice. Of course, pro life people are very supportive of women's rights. And we think women deserve better than abortion. We think abortion is hurtful to them. And we'd like to live in a world where they have every opportunity to be wonderful mothers and parents.
So you're talking about women's rights. Part of a good pro-life campaign would probably be to communicate to the public that you're not anti-women. So how is the pro-life movement actually supportive of women?
Sure. Well, the pro-life movement often has been accused of being anti-woman, but when you look at the movement itself, you'll find again that the people involved with it who feel that everyone has value are very supportive of women and all the things that they do. Here in Lethbridge, part of the way we do that, of course, is through the programs and support that we offer to the people here in Southern Alberta. We do run a place called Elsie's House, where women who find themselves in crisis pregnancies can go for support. And in all that we do, we try to do it in love, showing that we believe that there's a better way forward than abortion.
Now, a big part of the debate is at what point human life begins. Like, when is the fetus considered a human being with the same rights as a baby on the other side of the womb? Is it a heartbeat, or is it a certain term, a certain part of the pregnancy term?
Right. And I do know that there's a lot of people in our society that try to frame that as a a main kind of a talking point today. But I think if you look at our embryology textbooks, it's pretty clear that at the moment of conception, something happens where now it's no longer this foreign entity, but it's a human being on its track to being, it's fully human at that point with great potential. And so that's what we believe. We don't think this is an argument at all. I think the average person, if they understand anything about science, know that life begins at conception and it ends at death. And so these are sometimes people who are trying to distract from the real issue. But the moment I was created, that was me. When I was in my mother's womb, that was me. And when I was a kid, that was me, and now it's me. And if you were to go back in time and try and find a moment when I became me, it would be the point of conception. And so we like to stand by that. We think it's scientific, philosophical, it makes sense. And people who are trying to say that, there's some magical point, when someone becomes human, when they either go through the process of birth or when suddenly their heart starts beating, we don't buy those arguments. We think it's a very sound scientific argument that life begins at conception.
Now, I understand that a majority of Canadians do support limitations on late-term abortions, but politicians seem to shut down any attempts to legislate this. It isn't a conversation many people want to have, so why is it important to keep this topic as part of the public discussion, and how can we encourage people to discuss this rationally?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. We certainly have a lot of politicians today that don't want to talk about it. And if there are politicians who do, oftentimes media or people from other political parties target them and somehow try to label them as extremists for wanting to talk about that issue that affects all of us. But we do think it's important to continue to talk about it, to continue to make sure that people have the freedom to speak and to tell others that they think that people do have value. And so it's critical that we continue to guard our freedom of speech and talk on these issues, because it would be for the betterment of Canadian society if we put pro-life laws into place that protected the unborn and really then protected women.
Now let's talk to us about Elsie's House, which provides a safe place for new moms or moms to be.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because sometimes people say that, people who are pro-life never do anything to support women or the children. And that's clearly not the case. If you look around the community programs here in Canada, many pro-life groups are involved in many different ways. Elsie's House is a program that we started about maybe 3 or 4 years ago now. It's named after a wonderful lady who used to work for Lethbridge and District Pro-Life and volunteered for many years. It's a place where if there are women who find themselves in crisis pregnancy and they don't have any place to turn, they can come to us in Elsie's House. And we not only provide them or work alongside them for room and board, but we provide them the programs to help them mentally, physically, spiritually move forward to prepare to become mothers, prepare to become someone who's going to raise a child and to live independently and to find success. And so they come to us, they go through a number of programs, they live with us all the way through the birth, they stay with us for a few months, and then they transition into their own apartment and into independent living. And we try and come alongside them through the whole process. We do it because we are a Christian organization who loves the Lord Jesus Christ, but we allow everyone to come through the program. And we've had ladies from many different faith backgrounds or no faith at all come through and benefit from the program. And in all those cases, it's been a blessing to everyone involved.
Now, you said that the women are staying at Elsie's House for a few months. How many moms are able to be cared for at Elsie's House?
Sure. So right now we just have one location in Lethbridge, and in the home we can have up to 3 ladies. We have had that before. Normally there's two that are in there. That's kind of the ideal situation for the space that we have. We like them to come as early as they can when they know that they find themselves in this crisis pregnancy. It gives us the most opportunity to prepare them for motherhood, and then most times. Depending again on the situation, within a few months they're moving out after their child is born. But again, that's a general rule. There are some ladies that have had more needs that stay longer. There are some that have had less needs that stay for a shorter period of time. It just depends on the client. There is clearly a demand for housing and help in this area in Lethbridge. We're currently looking for another location to grow it. But in all of these things, of course, there's cost and time, and we really want to move forward right so that we make sure we're providing a situation where they're loved. There are a lot of unique needs of ladies who find themselves in these situations. And we're very thrilled that we've been able to partner with many local and government organizations. This seems to be a home that crosses the pro-life, pro-choice line. These are women who want to keep their children, and we're all on board helping them. So that's wonderful to see that we're all working together. The government agencies are very supportive with their programming and clients and programs that we're allowed access to. And so we're very thrilled that we can work together with a lot of people on this.
And is there a cost to stay at the home?
So when the ladies come to us, there's an application process that we go through to see if they're eligible. It's not a criteria where we say if you can't afford, you can't come in. We try to use the criteria to say, would our programs benefit you? And if it will, we'll find a way to get you in here. and to get you into the program. Now, there are some people that do have financial supports from the government and elsewhere. And so then certainly we would use those funds to help, welcome the ladies in and go towards their room and board. But it is not a criteria. So some pay some pay none. It absolutely depends on the case. But we're supported by our very generous donors. And so there is opportunity when they can't afford for us to give them the financial support that they need.
And so, does Elsie's House need any volunteers, or do they need baby item donations?
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting through the COVID years. It was very difficult to get volunteers in and to have people in the community help out. But obviously, there is a need for volunteers and for helpers. We have a number of wonderful volunteers already that might drive ladies to doctor's appointments, or some of them still have jobs, some of them might be still in school. So help out with all of those things when the baby is born. Some help, care for the child or go through the programs with the mothers. If there was someone who's interested, they could go to our website, elsieshouse.com. And on that website, there is a form for volunteers to fill in. And then at any point in time, people who think it's a good program can donate. They can do that online. And yeah, that's kind of how things go. But we've been very blessed that when we present this need to the people of Southern Alberta, people from, like I say, pro-life, pro-choice, love what we're doing and are very generous to the program. And we're so thankful for that.
That's amazing to hear. Now, how can a woman get involved and stay at Elsie's House? Is there a waiting list, and is there a need for more places like this?
Yeah, so just like there's an application online for a volunteer, there's also an application online for someone who may think that they right now need a place to stay and are interested in hearing about it. But of course, there's also a phone number, and you can talk to our executive director right away. And I wouldn't say that there's a waiting list as such. We try to assess the needs, and if there is a need, help in some way. But yeah, currently, when there's three ladies in the home, then unfortunately we don't have more spots right now. And I guess then that would be a waiting list. But we are kind of, when there's a big push, and we're very close to that, we do have the staff in place where we could rent another home and move forward in expanding the program.
Now, turning our attention back to Lethbridge Pro-Life, can you just tell us how the funds are raised and how they're spent? Because I know there's been some controversy in the past about some of the pro-life advertisements in Lethbridge.
Yeah, about 5 years ago, we had a bit of a disagreement with the city of Lethbridge over whether or not they would place our ads on the buses and bus benches. So we went to court, and thankfully, we won all five cases, five counts against the city of Lethbridge. And so the judge was very clear that government elected officials, their job is to protect our freedom of speech. And so they have a responsibility not to count on outside agencies to try to, say which ads they can and cannot put up. As elected officials, they need to defend our freedom of speech. And since then, there's never been any issues, and it's been wonderful. And we've always tried to do our ads, of course, in love and compassion for all of those. But we certainly believe we have freedom to speak our minds on this position. And even if people disagree with our position, it doesn't mean we don't have the right to express it. So that's been a real blessing to us. Of the funds that we raise, we do have some staff that work on the support of all of our groups around City of Lethbridge. We do some advertising, do give some scholarships and some activities for young people. But the majority of our expense right now, of course, is Elsie's House. Takes quite a chunk of funds to run that program, to employ the staff, and especially as we want to move forward. And so that's kind of how we use the money.
This topic is often discussed about from a women's perspective, but let's talk about men's rights for a moment here, because men are parents too. What resources would a male have if his female partner wants an abortion, but he wants to keep the child? What resources would he have?
Well, that's a very difficult situation to be in right now, because obviously we give a lot of autonomy to the woman in this situation. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's the situation we find ourselves in. But you've really brought up a good point that this is not just a women's issue. This is something that affects all of us. It affects fathers and mothers. And so oftentimes when we talk about Elsie's house, we'll say young ladies and families who find themselves in crisis situations, because we realize there's a lot more people involved than just the lady here. And again, we believe that when you do believe that people have value from conception until natural death, and we all have equal rights, that recognizes that there's a lot of other people who are affected by this issue. And so there are many resources that you can find if you go to lethbridge.org. There are some resources for people who find themselves in that situation. Or again, you can call us and we can come alongside you and try and help through those situations, because they can be very, very difficult.
Well, we're just about out of time, but very quickly, Duane, can you just tell our viewers about the annual Hike for Life event that is happening this Saturday, June 3rd at Henderson Lake Park in Lethbridge?
Well, it's a wonderful event. It's our big annual fundraiser. It's a celebration of life. It's for all people who kind of agree with what I've been talking about here today. It starts at 9 a.m. It's at the Kiwanis Shelter at Henderson Lake. We usually get about 400 or 500 people come out. We start with donuts and juice, and then people hike around the lake. A lot of them are donors themselves or have raised money through sponsorships. So it is a fundraiser for us, but some people come just to be part of it and support us. And then when we're done, we have T-shirts, we have hot dogs, there's games for the kids, face painting, balloons, there's a bouncy castle. It's a celebration of life. There's nothing controversial about it. Money raised goes to support our causes and Elsie's house. And it's a wonderful day, and the kids have a great time. And yeah, we hope people who share our core values on that will celebrate life with us on Saturday at Henderson.
Duane Konynenbelt is a board member of Lethbridge Prolife and Elsie's House. Thanks so much for being with us today, Duane.
My pleasure.
I'm Naveen Day. On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, thanks for watching.